wonder if he knows it.
Hey, Craig, I think you're on mute. If you're still speaking.
I wonder if he knows his microphone cut out.
Well, yeah, I know.
Oh, yeah.
Somehow, I found myself muted. I don't know how that happened.
Okay.
Anyway, so what we're looking for is, in this area right here, hopefully we would be able to identify what the pushed information would look like. The other possibility is that the information could be pulled, such as an outside party sends a request to send this information. Such as it might drive a schedule that every 15 minutes, every hour, whatever, that this information is updated. So a remote system would call in and says, please send me your information, such as including the sensor value, your read location, things of that nature. So this would show also the information as it is being pulled. So this is for transport units. The information here for a returnable transport item may be a little bit different in that it might also include a mobile device in addition to the sensor. So we're having to identify the IMEI, the ICCID, the IMSI. This shows what the information would look like, and then again we have to combine this into a message for both push and pull information. This here is the new stuff that is in 29161. Please understand, 29161 has not even been submitted for a committee draft yet. So this is still all warm jello. But we need the input from this community as to what you want that output data to look like. Thank you. That concludes what I have to say.
Which one was the push and pull, or were both?
They're both. Okay. First of all, the information that you're expecting. Okay. The third scenario is that let's presume for a moment, and this would primarily be a pull scenario where somebody says, "Hey, device 123, tell me your location." In that case, it's only looking for a specific piece of information. In most cases, however, it is going to be requesting all of the information that is included in these fields. So, so both of them could be either push or pull. Again, a push would be where a sensor is tripped and it sends out the information. A pull information is where is from an external source that the device is actually, there's an inquiry submitted to the device to transmit its information. So again, we have both push and pull for both of them.
Okay, did anyone have any questions for Craig with regard to what he's discussing?
Yeah, this is Michael. Michael Holman. My only question is with SMPP and the way that Presence works, it's just a one-time you subscribe to that device. So I don't know if it's necessarily a pull function. within it, because as you're connected to the device and subscribe to it, you can subscribe to specific information that you may want. You may not want all the values of the device, but just specific, and that would be sent to you whenever that value changes based on your policy. I'm trying to understand, and maybe Peter, if you could shed some light on my confusion, if you're on.
Peter's not on yet. Okay, so the issue is that if you can only inquire for one field, then I'm not sure that XMPP is a viable solution.
You can do a push and a pull mechanism.
Yeah, but the issue here is that, from what I heard him say, is that you are subscribing to a single piece of information.
No.
And what is needed is the ability to subscribe to a combination of information.
Yeah, and that's what you can do. Yeah, and that's what you can do. I apologize if I was a little unclear on that. You can subscribe to the different values that you specifically need if you don't need all of the values that are coming. So it's not just one or all. It's numerous. You can subscribe to whatever values you as the application need from that device.
And in this use case, in this application, it is looking for these values that are shown here, these 10 values.
Sure.
Yeah, we've got a special messaging that we're handling for these kind of devices, which are for Task 7. Michael, you're not familiar with what that is right now, but we'll be talking about that a little later. Did anybody else have any other questions for Craig? Okay. Well, you want to switch back to me again then, Craig?
I do.
I guess I need to push a button here, so.
Craig? This is Ken. Somehow I pushed no because earlier. On this identify sensor, is that you have a bunch of number 16 character? Is that the EUI, IEEE EUI 64?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right.
Now, that is the one I chose to use in this example.
Yes.
We also have a 21451-4 option.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Right, so I would like it if sensors had one method of identifying themselves, but apparently they do not. Both headers or both forms are addressed.
Okay.
And that is that. Okay, William, scroll back about 10 pages.
Oh, this is the 2 pages. I can bring up the
document.
The document, yeah.
And then go to page 30. Go to page 30. Okay, so then back up a little bit. Yeah. And keep backing up. Keep going. Keep going. Okay.
Close.
I need to find it and tell you where to go.
Page 30.
Okay. Go to in that table. Go to.
Oh. You want to switch back a second to yourself, and it may be easier for you to find because I'm.
All right. Go to value 5.1 and 5.2 in the table.
Are you saying table? One?
I'll take it back. Just a minute.
Yeah, it's easier.
Yeah, it will be. Just a minute. Okay. All right, now, can everyone see the table?
Yes.
All right, good, thank you. All right, if we look here, these two values here define the various different types of unique identification for a sensor or a test, and the information that I used as 51 is what was carried forward here into identifying the sensor. So this value right here is an EUI64.
Okay, can we go back to the table again? Okay, yeah.
Hey, what do you want?
Okay, I think that I'm quite sure Lee and Dale agree with me that on 1451-0 that we have a UUID for identifications.
That's
what
right.
do you
It's not
mean
there.
UUID?
It's not here, right?
Well, what do you mean a UUID?
Okay, when we have a TRIM device, we have a UUID identifying the
Hey,
device.
what is a UUID?
Oh, universal unique identification.
Obviously, it's not universal among sensors.
Among 1451.0 sensor, right?
Okay, so the unique 1451.0 sensor. Okay.
That's right. It's a 10-byte number.
Well, all right. So somebody needs to send me the values what that construct is, and
Okay.
I would probably make it a value number 53.
Okay, Dale, can you send him then?
Okay, I'll send that to...
Harmon@qed.org.
Okay.
Copy me as well,
Okay.
and maybe copy me so we all can double check for you.
Because what I do is that, all right, so let's just look at 51 and 52 as it is right now. It'll be easier to search just EUI. Alright, so what I do here is that I go through an explanation for each one of these unique identifications. And this is the extended unique identifier EUI64. And this is the way that it is formatted. And this shows how it would be encoded.
Right.
Here is the same thing for a 21451-4.
Yes.
Alright? What I need is equivalency for your 1451.0.
Okay.
Alright, and since you have 29161, you can see what required information is needed.
Also, Craig, the UI64 is the one that we use on DOT7, right?
Yes?
Okay, good.
And it's also used in 802.15. It's utilized in 802.11. And 802.3.
You didn't mention that the particular standard under this.
I'm sorry?
Maybe you should, since you mentioned 802.11, 802.15.4, maybe you also mention 21451-7.
I can do that.
Just to be fair.
I mean, that's fine. We can do that.
Okay, thanks.
Just interrupting, Kay Johannes is here to come.
Someone's typing there. Please mute your microphone. Okay. I guess I'm repeating one more time. If you're not speaking, please mute your microphone. We're getting a lot of key clicks from someone.
Yeah, this is from Lixon Lu. Alright, you should be good.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for Craig? Hearing none, then Craig, switch back to me again.
Done.
Thank you.
Looks good.
Right now
Okay,
you're
what?
fine.
All right, everybody see my screen again?
No.
No.
I see a green. I know that you have control, but I don't know what else is there. It says viewing William Miller's desktop, but it's just a green square or green rectangle. I'm going to take control back and give it to you again.
Yeah, I think WebEx doesn't like sometimes when we switch back and forth too much. Okay.
And now I'm going to pass it to you again.
Right.
Just a minute. No, wait.
Oh, too
Now
fast.
go ahead.
All right.
There you go.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to say a few words here on these are some action items. We've already been discussing some of this. I took these out in the announcement so that some of the folks could read it over and see some of the items I'm going to talk about. We've already had a few people talking about the Transformation TEDS, which was a presentation that Peter Weir did on the last conference call, and that is what this action item is about. I'm going to suggest we just take a few moments and discuss it, and I'm going to bring up Peter's presentation, which, let me see, is Peter online there? Oh, if not, I'm going to have to do it myself. All right. This is also on the central desktop. This is the presentation that Peter did. I'm going to give you the abridged version because he does a much better job of all of this. What he did is took some of the TEDS information from the .0, and then he went back through it. I'm going to bring it up to a slide that shows the .0 TEDS. And that's the .0 TEDS. Anyway, when he looked it over, he said, well, this particular TEDS XML is not compliant with the W3C. And when we want to send this over the internet, it had to go through some changes. And to do that, you can use something called XSTL. And Peter was kind enough to write the actual converter that will convert it over to something like this. It's a little more structured. But what it was felt after we saw the presentation is that some of this may need to appear in the -0. And I know the gentleman that is from -0 may not be familiar with all this, but here's like an XSLT, and it's basically a script that runs in the system that converts it. Would imagine we'll put this into an NCAP it doesn't reside in a TIM. So we still haven't discussed where all this goes just yet. But this will then, when we call an XML TEDS and have it sent over the internet, this will get it to be W3C compliant. I guess I'm going to suggest that people take a look at this. If you haven't seen the presentation, you should do that. And I may even ask Peter to give another one once again for everybody. And as I mentioned earlier, there are some tutorials on the W3C website that discuss XML, of course, and XSLT. So it's not very complicated, but you have to kind of become familiar with it so you can see it. Obviously, Peter's very familiar with it. He was able to take this and generate the code that's needed. And this information, by the way, I'll probably be including this as part of the -1-4 so that that's understood. But can I introduce the gentleman that's on from -0?
Yeah, we have Jay and Lee, also Dell, so I just want to ask, if the basic question, is there any change, any requirement to change the TED itself, or is it a matter of just the transformations? So, they can all clear and understand. Is it Peter requesting we change the TED format, or just...
No.
That's what we do, transformation.
No, the converter takes care of all that. But it's probably, this kind of information should appear in the -0 because we weren't really sending the TEDS XML over the internet before, which is needed as part of what we're doing with XMPP and the Internet of Things.
Wouldn't that be 1451-1 where that would occur?
No. It's .0.
It would have to be
defined.
What I was asking, make sure that Lee and Jay and all confirm that, there is no change to the definition of the TED. It's fine, but if it's only change, we need to change the XML schema in the appendix, then we can do that.
Can people hear me at this point, or am I muted?
You're fine.
This is Jay Johannes. I don't know. In my view, this is a 1451.1 layer. This is not part of the .0 layer because this would not be something internal to the TEDS or operating the NCAP 10 communication. This is NCAP 2 external layer. We put that web server in there as a kludge, but the intention was always that all that communications would move over to the .1 layer.
So that would be John's territory then?
Yes.
So John, you agree that you'll be able to address the issue?
Well, if that's something we need to address, then I'll put it on our docket. But heretofore, we weren't planning on it, so this is very important to know.
Yeah, I got the tech experts in here. The .0 expert here. So you have any questions? Yeah.
John, did you have some questions for them from .0?
No, other than the fact that this is a new item for me to consider. This is, like I said, we had not thought about that part of it. Well, I have no questions other than I got to figure out exactly what this implies.
Well, I'll work with you on this, John.
Yeah, so that's good, Bill. Let's figure it out.
Okay.
We're happy to help consult if you need us to.
It'd be nice maybe if you could just provide a couple sentences, a kind of coherent statement of this is exactly what needs to be done, or the general idea of what needs to be done as part of the TEDS translation thing. That way we have something to start working from.
Okay. Lee, are you willing to communicate with me on that?
Yeah, I think once you send it to me, I'll circulate it among all the 1451 people.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm more than willing to try to help when I get a chance.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm in a release cycle myself.
Well, I
appreciate both of you can attend and help. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, I'd suggest looking over the presentation from Peter, and if you like, we may be able to arrange something where, because I know you weren't on that call, where he gave a very excellent presentation about it, and we can kind of bring you up to speed. I think everybody should be aware of what is happening. This will all become very transparent once it's implemented for the system. The next action item, if there's no other questions, again, is to look at the items that Craig was presenting. We got to take those fields which have to be defined in -1 with respect to -7. And I think they can be structured the same way we've done all the other messaging. You just have to add like an attribute for the fields that need to be requested from the device. And of course, that's what will be placed into -1-4 as well. Because we're, at least as far as the -1 documents, we're kind of mirroring the messaging in the -1. So, John, have you distributed -1 just yet? I don't know that I've put it up on the -1.
Well, it's in our workspace that, you know, if we're going to merge things, we need to figure out a way that we can either mirror our content or somehow make sure everybody is a member of both groups so they can see what they need to see. But our draft has been up for a couple months now.
Okay. Is that anything that can be done like that?
What's that? I'm not sure what the.
Well, we've got a lot of the people are in the same group, but there may be some that aren't. There may be a need to kind of merge some of the people of -1 into -1-4. Is that something that the IEEE Central Desktop people could help us with?
Well, what do you mean merge? You mean include them in the notification of the meeting and so on?
No, I already send that out through -1-4, but if there's documents that John would post, maybe we can have that accessible to -1-4 and vice versa.
Oh, yeah, he can give it to you and you can post it in your committee. I mean, I don't think that the two are merged together, can be merged together. I think each working group have their own open desktop account. But again, you can when he gives you the document, you can post it in your working group. No problem. Also, I have a question regarding to this action item. You only go back. Can you go back to that action item?
But couldn't we consider all the 1451 working groups to be in the same desktop?
Distribution?
Yeah, so that we can go in and look at each other's desktop.
I mean, all you do is you sign up with each of the working group. I don't think you can group things together because they.
No, I understand this, but yeah, of course, each of us could sign up with each of the working groups, but you also could have signed us all up.
Yeah, I sign up with all of them. I mean, and once you sign up all, in your directory you have all of them listed. Or you click to that one, this one. So
yeah,
I don't think they can have everything created into one mess because it would be very confusing.
Okay.
But anyway, go to this slide here. You only mentioned 21451-7. You don't mention like dash 1, dash 2, and dash 4, and so on.
Well, all the other ones other than -4 and -7 are already in -1 that I've seen. I haven't seen anything that, as far as I can tell. Those messages we need for -4 was the next action item I just put up. And that is because I guess I'm not sure what we're going to get as an input, whether it may be as relatively simple as passing it via EXI, or is there some message structure that we need to address? And what I had brought up earlier was the same information that Craig presented, and that John, basically we're taking this information here and creating an attribute name, just like we'd use for other messaging, and building that as a special item, which would be relate to -7. And I guess we'd look to do a similar action for -4 once we know, well, what is the structure of the things that we need to pass for -4. Then, of course, we'll use that as the basis of establishing what is the request and what is the reply, which will be needed in -1, and of course we'll mirror that in -1, -4 as far as XMPP. Everybody.
So John and Jordan should work together on that then, right?
Yeah, well, I'll be turning it over to John here in a second, but I want to cover some of the last items. Those two that we just went over as far as -1, -7 and -4, these are some things that initially I believe John has already been talking to everyone in -1. This next item, action item, is just a new discussion, which I'll make everyone in the group aware that we've been having some discussions with the folks with the OPC Foundation, and I was looking to see if any of those gentlemen have come on the call. Michael, I'm going to ask you to give us a little 2-second explanation of what OPC UA is, Michael Holman, and what that means to have OPC UA go over XMPP. Would you do that?
Yeah, I can. I'll try to as much as I can for this the technical knowledge of this group. So OPC UA, OPC is a binary data protocol, and used around the world in different sensors and such. It's I would compare it to like BACnet and LongWorks Modbus. What the UA is their unified architecture. And what they've done is what they're in the process of doing is going out to the different other protocol standards bodies, such as BACnet, and they're talking to them to develop an object within, say, the BACnet driver that converts over to OPC. And there are other standards bodies that are involved in kind of jumping on the bandwagon with this. What that'll mean is that if they're able to do everything like they plan in the UA, they will then be able to have kind of a unifying transformation protocol that allows any number of different devices to speak commonly once it gets to the controller unit within a building or to the server within the cloud. What they're doing is looking at and they've done tests with XMPP, and they are in the process in their working group of putting XMPP into the protocol stack to be the WAN protocol, I guess you would call it, to be the messaging protocol to take that OPC data, OPC UA data from device or controller, depending on the configuration of the building, back to the servers, and then be done whatever interesting has to be done there and send the controls back. So it's basically they're trying to do a unified architecture and working with other standards bodies in order to make it almost a one protocol for IoT. And William, if that I hope that's enough of an explanation. It's kind of what I have as an overview of understanding of them.
Why is OPC UA not participating best of my knowledge at least, within this special working group on the Internet of Things. I'm not sure if you're participating within the ITUT JCA IoT, and we also probably need some of that Internet of. I mean, what I've been describing for you within 29161 is a header structure, and it almost sounds as if we're at a point where we can work together, but if we don't work together, we're going to be working at cross purposes with something like 29161.
Yeah, and as not being a spokesperson for OPCUA, we just happen to have now and by the way, there's an infrastructure now that's stood up. It's utilizing a commercial XMPP server that is attached to OPCUA server for interested parties to connect to and do testing of OPCUA over XMPP. As far as it goes, we had our first conversation, Craig, I believe you were on the call, I'm not sure, about a week and a half ago with the president of OPC Foundation. You know, as far as involvement within the group, they would have loved to have gotten out today. I know Randy Armstrong, who's their technical lead, said that he was too busy to come out and present today. I do believe that William, if I'm not mistaken, you and Tom, I'm not sure if you've had communication since. I know that you reached out to him. But Tom was very open in the meeting to working with this group as well as I know that they have other groups that they've already worked with in IEEE, IEC, and ISO, I believe, that they mentioned on the call. So I believe that's on its way, Craig. We just have to find out where they are as far as scheduling to be able to have more participation within this entire group.
I mean, while participation within this group is probably important, I mean, you talk about a unified architecture for the Internet of Things. In order for that to happen, the players in the Internet of Things have to be involved. And I know that I have received absolutely, outside of through William, I've received no communications whatsoever on supply chain applications of the Internet of Things. I do not know, I don't believe that OPC, as I said, participates within this new special working group from JTC1, and there's the ITUT activity. I mean, I know that the Internet of Things is a buzzword right now, and everybody's jumping on the bandwagon. However, the problem with everybody jumping on the bandwagon is that they're different wagons. And
we've had this discussion, Craig. I absolutely agree.
And I don't think that there's anything sacred about the stuff that we're doing. I mean, we're standing up 4 standards right now for supply chain applications. I mean, you can imagine how the Internet of Things could impact the supply chain. Everything from smart packaging on out. So, as you look at this, it doesn't do us any good at all to be developing these standards if we're just developing the school box that all of our friends are going to operate in, and it doesn't meet the greater need. Likewise, a unified architecture for the Internet of Things sounds good theoretically, but it may be only unified among your friends. So that's what I'm trying to avoid.
Right. Yeah, you know, Craig, this is something that we had, and William and myself and my chief architect, Dave Richards, had this discussion just the other day. There's got to be, and I could not agree more, there's people going in so many directions because they have a protocol of choice or an idea on how they can resurrect some sort of old protocol in order to become the Internet of Things. And it's, you know, how does it go about? How do we get, and maybe it's within discussions with the standards bodies, the other standards bodies that are out there, and trying to get them to join in to understand, you know, the need for some sort of unified architecture, and then a protocol that's going to allow that architecture to communicate and federate with each one of the systems, even though their systems are always going to be, and I strongly believe this, that it's not a matter of one protocol for the data protocol on these devices. I think it's going to be more of an object that's created within the device driver, or a unified object schema within the driver that XMPP, for instance, could reach out to and grab the values of, instead of having to develop numerous schemas. So I couldn't agree more. I just don't know how we get those bodies involved in here.
Well, yeah, I mean, the issue truly is that, I mean, when you talk about these unified objects, that those objects are precisely what 29161 is attempting to address. Right. And I mean, because I mean, if you talk to sensor people believe that the Internet of Things is just an application of sensors.
Right.
RFID people believe it is just an extension of RFID. Location-based services think it's just a location service. The fact is that they are all right, and there was a new consortium that been stood up in the past 2 weeks with Cisco and AT&T and several others, and right. if we don't do this intelligently, it's going. I mean, and there's no way. You can't just call a conference. You have to have people that populate these various works, and if my expertise is necessarily networking, I probably should not be out there identifying objects. If my expertise is identifying objects, I need to rely upon somebody else to do that other piece. So that is the big problem that we're running into right now, is that people are not aware of the various different work going on, and they're saying, well, since nobody's out there identifying objects, we'll do it.
Craig, can make a suggestion? I think this is time for Kang Lee to invigorate this harmonization meeting that he's had in the past. Only now it should be for the Internet of Things.
Yeah, I don't know. That's what we're trying to get everybody, in the meeting. But I'm not sure, if I can organize what I did before a meeting at NIST. Because
I will tell you that the coordinator for this new stand-up with Cisco happens to be from NIST.
What's he doing?
I'll get you the information, but it's just it is.
Are you talking about
you're
talking about the gentleman from the U.S. consortium, Craig?
Yeah.
Well, just a minute here. I'm trying.
That's that one we were discussing the other day, William.
Okay. To give everybody a feel of what that is, there was an executive order from President Obama that went out to try to bring together what was called the cyber protection, deal with the cyber protection problem. And there's a gentleman at NIST who has now moved forward to try to form a U.S. consortium to bring the people together from various communities to deal with this, because NIST is currently giving seminars, which they had one in Washington, I think Chicago, out on the West Coast, I think it was in Santa Clara. There's another one coming up in Texas. But they were dealing with it from the security perspective. And, of course, in the announcement for the U.S. consortium, it mentions the Internet of Things as well, which that kind of branches it into another area. But they are not aware very much, even though I have submitted something to that group. They haven't necessarily taken a look hard at the sensor problem, and they haven't necessarily looked at the security problem of critical infrastructure. They were more concerned about credit cards. But anyway, we need to have an outreach to these different groups, try to participate. I know I'm going to sit in on one next week with the INCITS, which is an Internet of Things group that's just starting, which sat into one meeting now. But again, they don't necessarily know that about this group and what we've already been have accomplished and what it really means to have this. I feel the unification using XMPP is going to work very, very well and has already been well established in, for example, social media and many other areas. So we've got a lot more traction, and basing that upon the 1451 type standards, I think is again a established sensor standard. I will note that on the screen you'll see that I did put up a copy of a document that I've received from, I guess that was Randy, with the OPC Foundation, and it basically shows what they did in their test, and it shows some of the message constructs. What we'll be doing is looking at what those message constructs are compared to what we're doing, and they are somewhat similar, but there's going to be differences. And what we would want to achieve is to get sufficient unification with what they want to do with OPC and over XMPP so that it will interoperate with a Internet of Things architecture. And these are some things we've talked about before. Whenever you're discovering, you have to go and send some other things to the server and so on. These kind of elements have to be put into the standard so that everybody builds to the same thing, so they'll be able to have interoperability and the interchange of their information. That's where the bigger problem will come in, even though there is many interpretations of what machine-to-machine is and Internet of Things. You still don't have this common way of interchanging, just like we did for the phone company. For example, whenever they developed the SIP protocol for digital phones, that went for a long time until they sorted it all out, and now we have a robust digital phone system for the whole planet. Well, now we're at the state where we're forming a standard based upon XMPP in this case, which we're seeing this in the form of social networking today uses XMPP. I don't know if everybody realizes that. It's already a global phenomenon. It's something that now dovetailing the capabilities of having censored systems, be able to use those type of mechanisms that are extremely scalable and will have interoperability. This is the message that I guess we all need to be able to understand and be able to pass along to everyone. And I'm going to get back on track here for our remainder of our time. If I would, I'm just going to point out to everybody, this is kind of a list of XCPs that have been working on. There's still a few more to go that Peter's been working on, Peter Weir. Architecturally, this is somewhat the diagram. There's a few people on the call who haven't seen it, where how XMPP can be used to transport information from various sensors, and including we can now be able to pass the HTTP type data traffic even over XMPP. And again, I direct you to the paper that I put up on to the central desktop that was from Peter. Just came out about a month ago now, that talks about the next evolution of the Internet, which is a new URI, which is going to be called HTTPX. And using that URI, you'll be able to then make a XMPP type call to even the existing types of web servers that are out there. So there's an actual change coming here with respect to the architecture of the Internet that everyone should become more aware of, and that's called Semantic Web 3.0. And I guess at this point, I'd like to turn over the remainder of our time here for Dash 1. And John, I'm going to turn it over to you here so you can conduct your business, and the rest of us be glad to listen. And I guess if there's any other questions, let's try to combine them all toward the end in the final closing. Go ahead, John.
Thank you very much. And I think what I need to do is share my desktop.
One moment. You may now share your desktop.
Okay, let's see here. Out of the way. I gotta get here. Go.
Up at the top, meeting center.
Yep, I got it.
Got it.
So I think you're seeing it.
Yep.
Okay, here we go. Full size. Yeah, one of the things we're trying to do here, because of the very clear requirement to more closely coordinate and integrate with each other, William and I we're conducting our meetings essentially joint. And so, Bill, I appreciate you providing me the chance to do that. And again, from what we've heard so far today, there's plenty of work that we all still need to do. And in fact, new things are being added to the docket with each meeting, which is a good thing. But on the other hand, we want to make sure that we make traction and progress on these things. So we're a meeting within a meeting. And so what I'd like to do is go ahead and call our group to order. This is for P21451-1. And so I need if you look down here a little bit, a lot of the standard boilerplate we always talk about, the patent disclosures and so on, William has already done in his meeting. And so I'm going to assume that we have covered that already. If there's any questions from anyone, then we can certainly go back and address those. But just to make sure we all understand, the patent issues, the affiliations, voting procedures, and so on, we like to remind each other about these rules each meeting. Again, the purpose of this meeting is to further the development of P21451-1, which is the standard for smart transducer interface for sensors and actuators. It's the common network services, so that's the layer that we're trying to address. At this point, I need a motion to approve the agenda. In case you didn't look at this thing beforehand, let me show you what the rest of my agenda is. So fundamentally, any reports from subgroups, and we're discussing when our next meetings will be, and that's the sum total of my agenda. So at this point, I need a motion to approve my agenda.
I'll move.
A second.
Second.
That's it. If anyone, all in favor, aye? Aye.
Right.
Okay, if there's any nays, let me know and we'll address your concerns. All right, hearing none, then we'll go on. The draft we posted on our central desktop site has been up there for 2 months now. I'm hoping at this point that folks have had a chance to look at it. I have heard no feedback yet, criticisms, concerns, additions, and so at this point I want to pause and see if there are any discussion about the existing draft that's on central desktop. This is the problem. So here's my situation. My graduate student, Nick, who's done a lot of the draft development work, just got himself a job. He starts work on Monday. And so I asked Nick how involved he's going to be in this effort, and he gave me a very evasive answer. So, at this point, I'm looking for another graduate student, but certainly anyone in this committee who wants to step up and start working hard on this standard is going to be mightily appreciated. next slide here talks to the kind of areas that we know we need to work on. Actually, after today's conversation, we need to add another one, which is making sure we are very aware of -0, because we have to do some work with TEDS. And so, William, you and I will have to address that. But that clearly is a new integration item that we need to add to this list. I think one of the things that will help kickstart or re-kickstart the -1 effort is to have that face-to-face meeting. We were looking forward to the end of the month in Ontario there, but that's had to be canceled because of just lack of folks who were willing to sign up for it. And so at this point, we're now looking to later in November to have one at NIST, and this topic's already been discussed. I think Jorgen, you brought up the point about maybe having a little bit later in November. So I think right now it's going to be in November sometime, but we'll have to coordinate with Kang to find out whether or not we can do it a little later in November, or if we have to stick with the previously scheduled 07-08 November. Hey, Kang, you've had a chance to look at that in the last 30 or 40 minutes, have you?
40 minutes.
When this was brought up earlier, were you able to look at any kind of scheduling availability, or is that something we're going to do later offline?
I'll be able to report to you at the end of your meeting.
Okay. Which is coming right up, Kang.
Oh, I thought you were going to take 40 minutes.
No. This topic was brought up an hour ago, 40 minutes ago, and I just wondered if you'd had a chance to check then. I mean, we'll have to do it afterwards.
Yeah.
So this is the sum total of my meeting notes, is because nothing has changed in the draft, and we now have new task areas that we need to work on, and we have the face-to-face that we're planning, and that's where we really need some folks to be able to sit down and start hammering on some stuff. So that's it. Questions, comments, volunteers?
I think you and Jordan should get together to work on that API.
Okay.
At least start the email communications on what the ideas are.
Okay, this is Darrell Webster. I'm wondering whether you need another subgroup, which is integration with 1451.0.
Yes, we do. That's just what I said we need to do. As a matter of fact, let me see if I can real-time edit this, and I'll add that to it.
Yeah, Darrell, have you had communications with Jorgen about this issue of having some kind of format for the -4 communications?
No, I haven't.
I'm working on the API with .4, and I think that we are moving forward, but it has not been so fast over the summer. But I hope that I will have some more concrete within the next 14 days. And I think that the way that this API is turning out will be important for the work with the subgroup here to the integration. And I also think that to be able to make this mapping, we need some extra information in the templates that can be added, but I think there's a job to be done there.
All right, thank you. So Kang will pursue that recommendation. One thing I want to make sure I don't forget, I'm going to go back a slide. If you attend this meeting, I want to keep track of attendance, and so you need to email me, and I'm sorry that got deleted from this, is email, excuse me. So the same address that you probably got my meeting announcement from. But anyway, if you will send me an email to schmalzel@rowan.edu, then I can keep my spreadsheet current of attendees.
Don?
Yeah.
Okay, I think that there's no problem on the conference room. I think it's not a really large group anyway. So let's discuss it with the people here. What date is the best? So I can reserve something, because I'm looking at the calendars they're talking about. Jordan was talking about November. You said November 20th?
Yeah, I believe that the forum might be interested in November the 20, and then we could have the other afterwards or before.
Yeah. So November 20th.
That's in the middle of the week. That's a Wednesday.
Yeah. Is that what you were talking about on Wednesday?
Yeah. That was what I was talking. Torben said that was a possibility.
Okay, that's the 14.1.4, right? Now, how about the .1 and .1.4? John and Bill, do you want to do it the day before or the day after?
Yeah, probably the day after or something like that. I mean, using that same Thursday, Friday slot like we had sort of worked out before.
Yeah, you're closer to the weekend. The Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah, Thanksgiving is the 28th, so it's 1 week later.
Oh, 1 week later, okay.
Yeah, I looked up on the calendar. U.S. is 28 November.
So how many days you want for the -1-1-4? 1 day?
I think we talked about even a day and a half, but William, I think if we want some time specifically devoted to our working group, and then we need some time where we can do some cross-pollination, then, the day and a half or 2 days is pretty good, I think.
Okay, how about I reserve the 20th, 21st, and 22nd?
That would be awesome.
Okay, all right, I'll work on that. So you put it in 1 minute, those are the dates?
Yeah, I've got it right there.
Okay.
I would say that it's fine, it's good, but my experience is that when we have face-to-face on a Friday, people are starting moving home early.
Half a day, right? That's what John was saying, half a day. So by noontime, people go home. Yeah. I think if you work on a tight schedule, get things done, the day and a half is pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah, so what we need to do then is we're going to work up draft agendas for this, but then we have to really solicit participation to get people to come to this thing and work on these standards.
Yeah.
Now you're going to schedule something on the 20th then too?
20th that's Jorgen, so he'll be focusing on -4.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, I mean both William and your people can also participate in that, because they somehow you have to work together to get that information up to the .0, .1.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll work out the details. I won't try to propose at this point who's going to use what time slot. We'll just say we'll have a 2.5 day opportunity, and we'll work out how we're going to schedule that time then.
Yeah, right. I think you should begin to, all three of you should begin to work on an agenda, and so people will know ahead of time so they can plan to join the meeting.
Yes, absolutely.
Sure.
Okay.
I wanted to mention that just on the, for information, if anybody cared to participate, NIST is actually having a data science symposium the 18th and 19th, which is going to be very interesting. I was planning to attend that, so I'm glad you chose the dates after the symposium.
Oh, really?
okay, so I'll just make a note of the thing here. This has a symposium on 18-19 November on what?
It's called the NIST Data Science Symposium.
Data Sciences? Okay.
I'll have to get the link.
Well, yeah.
I also wanted to, while that's coming up, I'll be coming from Atlanta as I'm putting together a Internet of Things special session for industry at the IEEE's Web Intelligence and Intelligent Agent Technology Conference down there. So that's also going to be a quite interesting event down in Atlanta on the 17th to the 20th, if anybody's interested in participating.
Yeah, that's great. That's which month? That's November?
November 17th to 20th in Atlanta, Georgia. And I've already got General Electric. I've got General Electric, SAP, and waiting on Siemens and Intel, as well as my startup, Coversant, and then another small business that does a real-time runtime. Looking for one more participant. If anybody's interested in joining in the discussion of Internet of Things and talking to the 350 academia that'll be there.
Hey, I'm going to volunteer Craig.
Yeah. Okay. I'll talk about it, Craig. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I think this is it would be a really good chance to get in and try to get some sort of with the large companies there, and that's a thought to try to get some of something of a cooperative situation started between academia, industry, and standards bodies.
All right.
Very good.
What's it called again, please?
It's the WIIAT, and it's two conferences merged together. It's the IEEE that does this, and it's the Web Intelligence and the Intelligent Agent Technology Conference. And the URL is CS, as in Charlie, gsu.edu/WIC2013//. I'll go ahead and post that in the chat to everybody.
Okay, yeah, because I didn't get that. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, Michael, you're going to be back in touch with me?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll go ahead and throw that out, Craig. I'll send you a copy of the invite and stuff like that.
Thank you.
Send me a copy also, Michael.
Yeah, I think I thought I forwarded one. I will do that again, William.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that concludes my piece of the agenda. So what I'd like to do is conclude my meeting. If there's any other questions, discussions, I'll make a pause for that. Otherwise, I want to turn the desktop back over, or Craig, you can take ownership of it, please.
I don't. All right, so William, do you want to?
Yeah, I know that we have Joaquin and Peter. So they're on the call now. I guess if the -0 people were still on, Kang, if you wanted to have Peter respond to some of their questions or any questions, Peter was able to join us now.
So
I think Peter last time had questions, so if he still have any questions, we have the TED expert in here.
Hello, Peter, you online?
Yes, first I want to apologize for it being late. Just a series of personal things that made it impossible for me to join earlier. The last meeting when I made the tech transformation presentation, I noticed a sequence of irregularities and changes made to the test. They are not questions as they are my notes and could be seen as questions. But there are a lot of strategic importance. They don't affect the way it's transformed. There were things lacking, like data types. There were things that have been changed, inconsistencies in names, XML validation problems, and etc.
Yeah, I guess the question was from earlier was that did you see any need to change what was in the XML TEDs right now, other than now we would use the converter that you described to handle that?
Well, the problem with the TEDs, the main problem with the TEDs, is that they use what I refer to as hard-coupled architecture. This means you have to change the schema every time you make a change to the information set that you want to represent. So any change, if you want to add an item or remove an item or change an item or change the type, etc., you need to change the entire schema, and this will break compatibility if multiple manufacturers implement these TEDs. It will be very difficult to maintain backward compatibility if they use XML tools such as schema validation or XPath transformations and so on. If you don't, if you already know what you want to take out from the TED, and if you don't share the environment with different manufacturers, this might not be a problem. But if you want to create something that will last and that invites multiple manufacturers, then my recommendation is you move to an architecture which is more loosely coupled, which do not require changes to the schema every time you add or change data items. This was my main comment in the last presentation.
Kang, is the gentleman still on the call to pass you?
I think Jay and Lee have left because he agreed to come for an hour because of their work. I think Dale's still there?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you?
Okay, my basic comment is that one of the reasons that we have such a compact binary structure is because it is easier to store and also to transmit if you have very limited bandwidth systems, which you often do with wireless sensors, which are battery operated. So I think that is why the format is so compact.
Yeah, let me make
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, compactness is not necessarily better or worse off using a loose coupled architecture, especially if you use techniques such as EXI.
Let me make a comment on compaction. All right. So and basically the brevity, the smallness of the message. Okay. So as we're talking about a small network inside of a house or even inside of a company of sensors, the idea of having bandwidth to support and modulation schemes to support all the movement of that type of data is really not exceptional. However, if we, we're talking literally billions of sensors communicating frequently. Now, whatever that frequently means, it may be every hour, it may be every minute, it may be continually. I mean, someone was talking about persistence earlier. that it may be that the persistence is constant. So, and I don't think it will be, but my whole point here is that we really need as compact a structure as possible, because I know that the internet will become more have greater bandwidth. There will be new modulation schemes that will permit more bits to be passed per unit of signaling speed. But at the end of the day, we still need to address as small a package as possible. Thank you.
Well, we always have different factors, and as I said earlier, the size of the packet is not necessarily dependent if it's a hard coupled or loosely coupled message architecture behind. However, and you bring this topic up. If you have a system of billions of devices from thousands, tens of thousands of manufacturers that should interoperate, I would say that more than the size, more important is interoperability. Interoperability, you need an architecture that's robust to errors or ideas of different manufacturers, so that one manufacturer cannot introduce something that would make everything else fail, etc., etc.
Well, I think this is the whole point of the .0 to make things absolutely interoperable.
Exactly, and so my point in my previous presentation is that the test shows several things which we should raise red flags for everybody. Among them, changes in the schema. Now, changes in the schema should be penalized by death within citation marks. For anybody striving for an architecture that's interoperable, you cannot change the schema. The schema is the contract, which makes everybody understand what the communication. So changes to the schema should raise red flags immediately. And now these changes are caused by the same problem, namely the architecture. The architecture is hardly coupled to what is trying to be sent. It means that when somebody else tries to send something slightly different, the schema has to be changed or a new schema has to be introduced. And this is completely the opposite of interoperability.
You have some example of that? I don't understand what you mean by that.
I have multiple examples in the last presentation. So for instance, let's take a simple example. Let's take a simple example. Temperature sensor. Everybody knows what a temperature sensor is now. What's the simplest form of a temperature sensor? It's a sensor that reports temperature, right? Now, so we create a schema for a single value of temperature, which might or might not include a unit or a precision. Then another vendor tries to create a better temperature sensor, which includes minimum and maximum values, perhaps a daily mean value or daily average value. Now, he cannot publish this information without changing the schema or adding a new one.
Okay, you're talking about the .4 type TEDs, is that correct?
Well, I just need a list of examples.
The .0 type TEDs does have all those options in it, built into it. You can change.
No, it cannot have all. It can only have those that you have thought of. It's impossible for you to determine what will happen in 10 years. And this is the main point when you choose architecture between hot and cold.
There are a fixed number of fields in there, that's true.
Yeah, and this is the very main problem. This is what is called hardly coupled. You're already in the schema defining what can and cannot be sent. And now this will create a conflict, because when another manufacturer wants to do something different from what you envision, it will create a new schema.
Well,
and that device will not be interoperable with other devices recognized.
That's very true, but if he does that, he does not follow the standard.
So you contradict the main point. If you want to have billions of devices from thousands of manufacturers, you want to have a standard that allows for these types of changes.
Allows for expansion.
If you want to create such a standard, then you're required to use the loosely coupled definition of the data. So it allows for additions, changes, or removals of data without breaking contract.
Well, there is with the .0, there is the option of manufacturer-added devices.
But that's not the standard. Manufacturer-specific is not the standard. It's not the same as interoperability.
I think you're right.
How do humans solve this? How do humans solve this? For instance, if I take a paper and I write down on my paper, temperature 20 degrees, so 20.2 degrees Celsius. And I send you this paper, you will understand it. Now, another person, he takes the same paper, so he writes on one line, temperature 18.4 degrees Celsius. Minimum 12.3 degrees Celsius, maximum 22.9 degrees Celsius, and send to the paper, you will still understand that the temperature value, you will still understand the temperature value regardless of who sent it. Because you understand that it's only the line with the temperature that's important. If somebody has added min and max, it doesn't affect your decision.
It appears to me that .0 already does that, though. Your argument is that it doesn't have that there's not the flexibility for introducing additional parameters.
Exactly. And those tests that I mentioned in the presentation, which were taken from the official document, were not. They have all fixed structures.
But can this only be, I think this can only be solved by use of manufacturer-defined text, because you cannot have a machine interpret fate information that is human.
Yes, you can. This is also a part of our proposals. So we have proposed a completely different XML schema that is loosely coupled, that allows for all things in our sensor data XCP. And we also, but it's not published yet, but it's sent out to everybody, describe how to do this with interoperability set. Showing how you can, using a loosely coupled architecture, still be able to define a standard for how things are sent or interpreted automatically.
So you replace, it took quite a long time to come up with the TEDS structure for .0. So you're trying to replace it by another TED structure, which is going to try to cover everything also?
I will not comment about the time involved in doing things. This proposal shows how you can use the loosely coupled message architecture to achieve the goals of interoperability and still be able, using ESI, to maintain message sizes relatively low or small. Of course, you cannot compete with 100% binary protocol that's optimized with compression, but such a message cannot be incorporated. But still, it is our conviction that this achieves a good balance between message size and interoperability and long-term stability.
So, Craig, what do
and it's also proven architecture. I mean, this is not just some invention that we invented now. I mean, this kind of message architecture has been around at least since the 90s. I know of this message architecture since the 90s. And you can probably find resource material stretching even further back.
I probably doesn't understand you, because my feeling is that if you are interpreting the information from the text that is in the XML, then you're missing some conditional things, some conditional decision that what this means. For instance, if it's a sensitivity, you can say it's just stated that this is a sensitivity of the transducer, but when we define the tags, it is the sensitivity of the transducer at certain condition. And that information is missing in the tag name, but it is defined due to the tag means this. So it's
the entire XML definition, definition is wrong. And the schema, you cannot simply just add things and hope for devices to interpret this correctly. The schema is a contract. And it's a standardized set of tools to validate messages.
okay.
The reason why you do a schema is to create automatic validation of messages, so nobody can inject something that's invalid.
Okay.
To have a very easy way, relatively easy way to determine that this message is a valid message according to this standard.
Yeah.
And then it contains what you're supposed it contains.
That checker is on the W3C website, right?
Yeah. Well, the intended XML tool dedicated to XML, they should have these schema validation tools incorporated.
That's true.
And I mean, it just starts there. I mean, if you cannot validate the schema, you cannot perform other kinds of more advanced XML operations, like the transformations, for instance. Transformations assume you follow a certain schema or export, etc., etc. And it's really based on a set of standardized protocols for describing data. The XML is a standard, the schema is a standard, export is a standard, SSL is a standard, and so on.
May I interrupt? Sure. I'm thinking that the 1451.4 is based on use of templates and very compact text in binary form. But also we have opened up for using XML, and this is probably information that will be stored elsewhere than in the transducers, but maybe also for some transducers stored in the transducers where there's more space. I hope that this is implemented in a a good way, but I'm also feeling that maybe it would be nice and important if some of the experts here that understand XML much better than I do could help in and validate that what we're doing is wise. And maybe even participate in the face-to-face in November. I hope that somebody could help us.
Now, we should not wait until November to work on this problem. We should work on it now, but by November we should have some document that, we can finalize.
Yeah, but that's no problem because the XML part in the .4 is that should be added to the standard now has been written. It's been written by Stephen Hitt.
Okay.
So that can be distributed now.
Okay. So if you have that, maybe show it to Peter, then see what he thinks.
Yeah, if you would like to help us, that would be fine.
Yeah, I think just send it to William. William can put in the website, in the desktop, open desktop.
Yeah.
Okay, it sounds like we need to get our hands around this, but I'm glad, Peter, you were able to come on the call because it was an important element. A little bit of shame that the .0 people got away, but I think they need to kind of catch up a bit so they better understand as well.
Now, there's also that if we're going to list this schema, we should probably have it validated out of W3C just as being technically correct.
The main point that the group should consider is, if it produces a schema, it should try to understand that this schema must never be changed.
Yeah, I understand.
And if a criteria that 10 years is too little, within the schema that doesn't change, because you cannot change the licensing field that easily. So that's the main contract. It's a contract that's binding. And so you need to have a schema that allows for new inventions. This is the main.
It sounds like this is a very important element, Kang, that we get this worked out, because the TEDS XML is a very key element of 1451 and our message.
Yeah. Agree. I think it's, Dale, you understand, what they need. We can adjust that in the committee, I guess.
Yeah, I understand. I'm not saying that the existing one in the binary is bad or should not be allowed, but I think there's a need to add some more to it.
Okay.
That
means you have to propose a change?
Well, maybe. I haven't really thought about this.
Okay, yeah, give it some thought and then we can discuss that in detail on the side.
Yeah, if we need to have any other more detailed discussions on this, we can even have a separate meeting. And I guess I'd like to open it up for any other questions. We've got about 10 minutes left in our meeting. Anybody else out there having any other questions about our activities and so on, everything we've covered? I had one question. Steve Rosario is on the call from Italy. I believe you were interested in looking at the security aspects of what we're doing. Are you still on the call? Okay, well, I guess somebody's unmuted right now. Okay, anybody else have any other questions? I'll try and get to Rosario separately then. Okay.
Again, I would recommend people to look at the extensions, particularly the sensor data extension and the interoperability extension that has not been published yet, to get an idea and feel of what I mean with this loosely coupled architecture, and understand why this type of architecture can be formed as a contract that will not change, but still allow for indebtedness in the future. And then we can have also, I would appreciate any questions or comments on these proposals also.
Yes, I guess I'd like to see that everybody has an opportunity to download those XCPs and take a look at them and generate any questions, which you can feed back to Peter or obviously to the group. But the more dialogue we get going about this, it helps everybody in the whole process.
Yeah, I downloaded it, but I cannot open it.
I'm sorry?
I downloaded it, you know, the file, but I cannot open. I double click on it, it won't open.
And XCP?
Yeah.
Really? I've downloaded all of them, and they seem to.
What kind of error are you getting, Kane?
Well, okay, I don't want to take up committee time on this. I'll work with you on the side.
Joaquin has published a couple of links in the chat for everybody.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Joaquin. Does that have the latest one that you were working on too, Peter?
This should have the latest versions of all proposals.
I think there was one.
The published proposals are available on the xmpp.org. The published versions are available on xmpp.org, but those, the latest revisions that have not yet been published are available on the link that Joachim has published or put in the chat window.
Would you please resend that in the chat window? Oh, thank you. Can you send that to me?
You can do a select all in the chat window and it can grab it.
I know, I understand that. Okay, it's back. It's back. Thank you. I got it. Appreciate it.
Okay. Any other questions from the group? If not, then I'll be moving to close out the meeting. And our next meeting right now is going to be scheduled for the third Friday of next month, which I believe is September 20th. Same time, same internet. I guess if anybody wants to have any other meetings in between, we can set that up. If because the discussion on the TEDs, it sounds like something that would need further discussion. And if you have any other new topics you want to interject at the next meeting, please send me an email on that. But I'm sure there'll be a lot of activities between now and then. Any other comments?
Sorry again, I was late. I'm really sorry.
I could also add that we're now starting with the IoT meetings through the meetup.com. So we will have a meetup in Stockholm on 9th of September discussing XMPP as an IoT protocol. And we'll try to do one in London later this autumn. if there's anybody in the north of Europe that's keen to participate.
Was that okay?
Yes, that was me.
Okay. Did you have a link to the that meeting?
Yeah, I'll send it in the chat.
Okay, let me grab. And by the way, if anybody else becomes aware of any other IoT kinds of activities, let us know. I'm not saying everybody will have a chance to participate, but if you are, it's a way of at least making them aware of our group, what it's doing within ISO and IEEE, and it's an ongoing activity to let people know, because quite frankly, as was said earlier, many people are assuming that nothing's been done. They've not heard it necessarily. So they'll start something new, and kind of who knows what might happen, but it tends to go on and on. Okay. Well, we're at the end of our time, and I'd like to thank everybody for attending, and looks like we had a fairly good showing today. I want to continue to encourage people to join and participate and give us your feedback.